everybody out there in cyberspace. I'm Sharif from ProductionHackers.net. So today I'm going to be talking about an interesting subject I've been seeing coming up, mainly in the game development space, but it actually affects many markets and overall trends in many industries today. So what are those industry affecting trends? That is indie versus mainstream business conflicts. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Indie versus mainstream business conflicts. So what's the situation? So the situation is when it comes to the way indies are going and the way they're taking up a share of market, it's affecting the more mainstream businesses and the sales of their products. And the way things and the trends have been going with mainstream products, there have been some criticisms to the new standards from the customers. So this is why you have a conflict between the indie and the mainstream within the industry, because nowadays the ability to develop for more people has risen, meaning it's easier for more people to develop products that can be sold in the same market as the bigger companies, whereas before the bigger companies had more of an advantage in that sense. And also the bigger companies now have more expenses and higher overhead because the new technology is expensive. When you're doing it at the cutting edge, which they have to do in order to justify their position as bigger and more mainstream. So, and also all the capital that they raise, since they usually, by that point, are quite established and are able to raise a lot of capital. So, yeah, so the problem with the indies is, even though they're succeeding, and you hear about certain phenomena like your Angry Birds or your Flappy Bird or whatever huge hit that will come out in the mobile market every so often from indies. There's even Minecraft is a good example. Since this was the inspiration, it's a good reference. So yeah, so the indies, however, are not doing well in general not in terms of popularity or people buying them, but it being profitable enough for the developers to actually be able to sustain that business model. So it's interesting because the industry is making a whole lot of money, but both the mainstream and the indies are having trouble actually keeping it sustainable, funny enough. So of course there's a lot of exceptions, like the big heavy hitters, but even they have issues. Even Nintendo was slumping, with their Wii U. So, nobody has it easy in this case. And that's the way it is. That's the way marketing is. That's the way capitalism is. That's the way business is. And that's just the reality of it. Of course, we can interpret it in a way that is not harmful and allows for healthy innovation and for everybody to win. What you want is a win-win for all cases. So to talk more about that, what are my opinions on how to deal with this conflict between the indie and the mainstream? So yeah, that's coming up next. So yeah, I think that what I've seen from some of the journalistic material out there, I watched a couple of videos, one from The Know and one from Pretty Good Games on YouTube. And I watch them very regularly. They've been around a long time. They're very well established for years. They have thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. So, and I like them personally among all the different ones out there, especially the pretty good games. Rooster Teeth is generally a good company. They make interesting stuff, and I like their news segment there, The Know, which is where I saw about this subject and partly inspiring this. Well, I think what I heard from those outlets is that the indies, since they're putting their prices so low, they're not making a lot of money off of it, and it's eating into the sales of the bigger mainstream markets because more people are buying the cheaper games instead of buying the more expensive games, also due to some other issues as well. But I personally think that they should raise the prices, not lower the prices, for the games that are pay to play rather than free to play. I think that they should instead raise the prices, because what happens is when you keep reducing the price of games all the time, you devalue games in general, And then for the bigger companies, and this is partly probably what they're thinking as well, is that what happens is they have trouble selling their games at the high prices, and they're already having trouble making ends meet at those high prices. So it's really bad for them when that keeps happening. Plus, it also solves the issue of the indies not being as profitable, even if they're more trendy, and some of them become phenomena every once in a while. They might be profitable, but usually among the pile of all the indies, even if they're doing sales, they're not really making much money. So they need to raise their standards. So, and I think that so that's the pay-to-play style. If you're going to go for the free-to-play, I think that that's when you can use microtransactions, DLC. I personally don't think that when it's pay-to-play that you should ever have microtransactions. And I don't think that you should have, if you have to pay to play, it should be all-inclusive. It should have all the content from the beginning, not something that's either patched in later or that you have to buy as DLC or something of that sort, something of that nature. If it's something that's already in there as content, but that you can unlock through gameplay and gameplay alone, then that's okay if you're charging at the beginning. Otherwise, if you have to pay to progress, or if there's lots of things you have to pay for to get more content, that's not like an entire sequel or something like that, then, or a completely different game, then yeah, I think it should be free to play, not pay to play. So I wanted to emphasize that raising the price is not only for indies. I think that the bigger companies could also raise their price. And because the problem with all of this is, if it doesn't go that way, if they don't want to start raising their price, it's going to go the other way. And then what you're going to have is more like a Netflix of gaming type thing. Like, where you already have that, of course, with Steam. But I mean, things are going to go even more in that direction. I mean, Ubisoft tried to do their own thing. It didn't work as well. But, for example, in music, it's going in that trend too, with the Tidal as well, not just iTunes and so on, not just Spotify. But, yeah, so it'll end up being like everything's going to be streamed, where the games are almost free, pretty much, but you just pay for the service to stream. But maybe that's a good trend. Maybe that's the way it should go. But one point that was brought up by the Pretty Good Games in their video that I think is an excellent point, actually relates a lot back to what I'm doing here at Production Hackers, which he was talking about how some companies in between who aren't so small, total indie and not so big, they're pretty much indie but bigger indie. And one of the Platinum Games he was pointing out as an example of a company with their game Nier Automata that actually sold really well, and their overhead wasn't very high, and that they were very optimized and efficient in their workflow and pipeline delivery in their business and the system of operations and producing the project to the end. And obviously their marketing was decent as well. But what they were trying to point out is that they were able to make a very high quality product at a lower budget, whereas larger companies with larger budgets tend to make lower quality products. Not all the time, of course. There's excellent games that come out every once in a while. It's just that it seems to be an ongoing issue, especially things that I was alluding to earlier, like bugs and just unfinished games and other glitches and issues. Just the lack of quality assurance due to the bloated nature of these high-cost, tight deadline, massive, operations where it's hard to organize everybody working on it and get some cohesion there. By committee type decisions and things like that can sometimes dilute the final product. But like I said, sometimes you have real leaders in there, even in the very established corporations that make excellent titles. So, like for example, Negoshi at Sega, for example, as a more recent example. Well, he's also been at it for a long time, from before. So yeah, and then from the point I wanted to talk about was that Production Hackers is all about that. It's all about using today's technology and the current things we have to be more resourceful instead of just using a bunch of resources and doing it the old school style. You'll see a common trend, and another guy from Sega, Suzuki, who's doing Shenmue 3 right now, he released a trailer and there was a lot of criticism that it looked quite unfinished in a lot of ways. and he received several $1,000,000 from crowdfunders, and he's had quite a lot of time already. And this was supposed to be a teaser trailer, not just a work in progress type thing. So people are still very hopeful, and he responded to it and everything very well, that there is still a lot that they're going to do and make it better and so on. And people are very hopeful about it, and I really hope it works out well. But it's a common trend that I've noticed with a lot of these famous developers who end up going out and crowdfunding is some people say they disappoint. Well, not only, I don't think it's they disappoint on purpose. Like, I don't think they're trying to scam people or anything like that. People feel like that the game should be a little bit better, that they imagine that they're going to be a little bit better, that they're going to be done a little bit sooner, and so on and so forth. But the issue is that they're not used to it. They're used to having a huge company behind them, a huge budget, all the creative, freedom in the world. Maybe not that all the creative freedom in the world, of course not, probably less creative freedom, but some of them get into a good leadership position in there as a creative designer type, like Shigeru Miyamoto in Nintendo, who's still there. So basically what happens is they don't know how to deal with a lower budget, even though it's still much more than what most indies have. Like, most indies don't raise millions of dollars on Kickstarter. They've raised tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, but not millions of dollars, not usually. Only these famous names usually pull in that much. But the thing is, it's because it's still 10 times less than what he usually has on a budget, and he doesn't have like a huge team behind him. He just has people, his closer people. They need higher efficiency. They need higher optimization in the workflow. And if they weren't in it from the beginning, starting from bootstrapping early on, instead they moved through a company and got in from a place that already has all the resources and can compensate for not knowing as much about new deep technology and efficiency, just look at it more from a very high level. There's a lot of lost income from lack of knowledge of deep knowledge of the technical aspects of what's possible today and how to leverage the most of today's technology. So that's why I think it's very highly related to what Production Hackers is about as well. So so I think that if the bigger companies start to do that, they'll save a lot of their overhead, and then they could sell games at the same price and get a lot more profit out of it. Not only will they sell games when they're good, they'll actually make a lot of profit as well and get a lot of bang for that risk that they put out there to making these huge productions, which are often quite ambitious. These games are like recreating whole worlds, so at a high level of detail and interactivity. And that's going to be important, especially in the VR and AR and mixed reality age coming up. So, and the 360-degree video type interactive technology, where your costs are by nature going to be higher to begin with, and so you're going to want to be as efficient and optimized as possible, no matter how many people are involved or how much budget you have. You still want to be able to basically get the most out of everything you have, not just use a bunch of stuff because you have it. And for some companies that are maybe more independent, or even maybe some bigger companies, could start to employ more modern methods of selling online so that they could ask for a higher price, but at the same time be able to deliver more value because they're getting more for their efforts to begin with, which is just a matter of knowing current marketing trends more deeply. So it all comes down to having a deeper knowledge and intelligence of what you can leverage with less need for resources and more resourcefulness into the way things have been progressing in the current age. For those that have been paying attention, been staying on the pulse, and have been keeping to go deep into that. So but I mean, even though all of these are issues and this is the topic I was talking about, it's not all bad. Like it still is successful in some cases. Like I said, there are those indie phenomena that come out every once in a while, so there is that hope in terms of still being even successful today. And the industry is making billions and billions of dollars. It's surpassing the movie industry, and now for a few years, I think. And there are still mainstream games and companies who are either succeeding big with certain titles or franchises or IPs, or bouncing back even with whole hardware and systems, like Nintendo with their Switch and so on. Sony's still very strong in the game. Microsoft's still in the game. It's still going. There's still a lot of a lot of potential there. Lots going on already. Lots of success. It's an amazing industry, huge, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's come a long way. But it's not, like I said, it's not just specific to even just the gaming industry, but it's affecting many industries. Like I said, music, between the indie and the mainstream, and the costs and the cost performance, the resourcefulness, the overhead, the knowledge. You can apply it to many models. It's the same with even TV series and so on now. People are starting to actually offer like subscription services to many media because it's gone the other way. So it shows you the potential of what the future can be for different industries as well if it gets too devalued for the content. Alright, so that's everything I got to say today. That's been Sharif from ProductionHackers.net, and I'll check you out next time.